Imagine a gentle Nebraska farm boy whose soaring tenor voice became one of the signature sounds of rock music, yet his name hardly registers in the history books. Randy Meisner co-founded the Eagles and sang lead on their classic hit Take It to the Limit, a song whose high, yearning melody became one of the band's trademarks. He helped write Eagles' early anthems and played bass on their smash albums. Yet by 1977, at the very height of their fame, Meisner abruptly walked away, later admitting he was made an outcast of the band I'd helped start. How could the voice behind so many Eagles harmonies become the band's forgotten heart? What drives a man to walk away from stardom? In this documentary-style exploration, we peel back the shadows and follow Randy Meisner's hidden journey. Welcome to Legend Story Vault, where we uncover the hidden journeys and untold truths of music's greatest icons. The Eagles defined the sound of 1970s rock, country-tinged harmonies, free-spirited anthems, and soaring choruses that still reverberate today. But underneath that gleaming surface was Randy Meisner, one of country rock's founding fathers. His bass lines and gentle high-tenor vocals quietly anchored the Eagles' sound. In fact, one music historian noted that if you trace the careers of Randy Meisner and Poco's Chris Hillman, you have an almost complete history of country rock as it developed in the late 60s and 70s. Randy's influence was immense, even if he rarely sought the spotlight. Despite the Eagles becoming the best-selling American band of the 1970s, Meisner remained famously shy and humble. His story matters not only because he sang on multi-platinum albums, but because it reminds us how fame and heartbreak can touch even the gentlest soul. As one writer put it, the Eagles' legacy would be lessened without Randy Meisner's contributions to their catalog. This is the untold story of Randy Meisner, how a Nebraska farm boy carried the Eagles to the top and then disappeared from the stage. Randy Herman Meisner was born on March 8, 1946 in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. He was the only son of Herman and Emily Meisner, sharecroppers who tilled corn, beans, alfalfa, and sugar beets on the Great Plains. From a young age, music was woven into Randy's life. His mother sang around the house, and his grandfather taught violin. A pivotal moment came at age 10 when the young Randy watched Elvis Presley electrify the Ed Sullivan Show. Inspired by the King's energy, he begged for guitar lessons. In high school, a teacher suggested he switch to bass guitar, a suggestion that clicked. Meisner later said he loved Motown and R&B bass players so much that when he learned a part, once I learn a part, it's there. He never formally learned to read music. He just played it by heart. Essentially self-taught, Randy practiced relentlessly. By his mid-teens, he had formed a local band called the Drivin' Dynamics, originally the Dynamics. He was a hard-working farm boy turned rocker, playing Kansas dance halls and small clubs to hone his craft. He dropped out of high school, he recalled, because music was the only thing he cared about. At 17, Randy tied the knot with his high school girlfriend, Jennifer Lee Barton. Later that year, their first child, Dana Scott Meisner, was born. He was now a very young husband and father as he began pursuing his musical dreams. By 1970, Jennifer had given birth to twins, Heather Lee and Eric Shane. Balancing late-night gigs and band tours with life on the farm put enormous strain on Randy's marriage. In the 1970s, as the Eagles' fame skyrocketed, his family life began to unravel. The young couple eventually divorced in 1981 after almost 2 decades together. Years later, Randy found love again. He married longtime partner Lana Ray in November 1996. For nearly 20 years, Lana was by his side, a stabilizing force. But tragedy struck in March 2016. Lana accidentally shot herself in the head while handling a rifle in their home. The coroner later ruled it a freak accident. In one instant, Randy went from husband to widower, losing a partner who had cared for him through his struggles. The loss devastated Randy. Friends later noted he never fully recovered from Lana's death. Life on the road was never easy for Randy. In the mid-1960s, he braved the grueling Los Angeles scene with a struggling band called The Poor. The group barely scraped by. Randy recalled, "I never had a car. I had to walk. I sold the Los Angeles Free Press on Sunset and Highland. I made about $5 a day." Even so, his talent was undeniable. After The Poor dissolved, Meisner found bigger gigs. He joined Rick Nelson's Stone Canyon Band in 1969 and even co-produced Nelson's live album. But the work was tiring, and Randy briefly returned to Nebraska in 1970 to try to save his first marriage. Soon he was back in California, this time catching a lucky break. In July 1971, he was recruited to Linda Ronstadt's backing band. At a Disneyland concert that month, he met Glenn Frey, Don Henley, and Bernie Leadon, young talents with a shared vision. The chemistry was instant. They soon quit Ronstadt's tour to form a new band, the Eagles. Randy was only 25, but he was now co-founder of what would become a rock institution. Initially, the Eagles soared. Meisner held down bass and added harmony vocals, even taking lead on several songs. He proved himself a capable songwriter too, but he struggled with the band's relentless touring. By 1976-77, the Eagles were touring non-stop, and Randy's health was fraying. He suffered from stomach ulcers and exhaustion, and he hated being the center of attention. As he once admitted, "I was always kind of shy. I liked to be out of the spotlight." The Eagles wanted him front and center each night to sing "Take It to the Limit," but Randy often felt unable to deliver the demanding high notes every encore. Then, late in 1977, disaster struck during a stop in Knoxville, Tennessee. Meisner was sick with flu and had stayed up late. When asked to come out for a third encore, he refused. A furious Glenn Frey cornered him backstage. The disagreement turned violent. Bandmates later said Frey grabbed Randy in anger. Humiliated and exhausted, Meisner knew things had changed. Within days, he told the band he was quitting, citing exhaustion. On September 3, 1977, Randy Meisner performed one last time with the Eagles in East Troy, Wisconsin. He left the stage forever, quietly feeling he'd become an outcast in the group he'd helped start. It was the end of an era and a crushing personal turning point. Before that low point, however, came unimaginable heights. In just a few years, Randy Meisner went from bar bands to the brink of rock royalty. The Eagles released their debut album in 1972 on David Geffen's Asylum Records, and it clicked. The single "Take It Easy," sung by Glenn Frey and co-written by country star Jackson Browne, became a hit. "Peaceful Easy Feeling" and "Witchy Woman" also climbed the charts. Meisner rarely stood in the spotlight then, but his bass lines and voice were always in the mix. On the band's second album, Desperado, 1973, he co-wrote songs and contributed harmony vocals. A more rocking third album, On the Border, 1974, gave the Eagles their first #1 single, Best of My Love, but Randy's vocals on that one were in the wings. It wasn't until their fourth album, One of These Nights, 1975, that Meisner's talents truly shone as a lead vocalist. He co-wrote and sang "Take It to the Limit," a soaring ballad that showcased his pure, high tenor. The song shot to #4 in the US and became a staple of their live show. Critics and fans alike noted that one of the Eagles' trademark sounds was Randy Meisner's high, yearning vocal performance on this hit. Suddenly, the quiet bassist was up front on arena stages, mesmerizing audiences. One of These Nights was a chart topper, and its success catapulted the Eagles to stadium status. By 1976, the Eagles' fame was stratospheric. They capped an incredible run with their greatest hits, 1971-75, a compilation album that became the biggest-selling album of the 1970s. Every track on that record, from Take It Easy to Take It to the Limit, carried a piece of Randy's musicianship. Although Glenn Frey and Don Henley often got top billing, insiders knew Meisner's voice and bass were crucial to the group's signature harmonies and country rock groove. His contributions helped define an era of music. The Eagles were now rock legends, thanks in no small part to the unassuming Nebraskans singing from their wings. The Eagles' fifth album, Hotel California, 1976, confirmed their status as one of rock's all-time greats. It sold over 30 million copies worldwide and won multiple Grammys. Randy Meisner's writing credit on that album was just one song, Try and Love Again, but his voice remained an integral part of the band's harmonies. In fact, many argue that the Eagles' sound changed when Randy left. Their country rock edge softened without him. To this day, Eagles music still ranks among the best-selling records ever. When fans hear the haunting high note of "Take It to the Limit," they are hearing Randy's voice, even if they don't realize it. And it was Randy who taught Eagles drummer Don Henley that country music wasn't this hick thing, convincing him to join the band, a critical pivot in their history. In interviews after Meisner's death, bandmates and collaborators emphasized his kindness and impact. Don Felder remembered Randy as a wonderful Midwestern guy with a great heart and a loving soul, while guitarist Glenn Frey once joked that Randy's presence on stage made his tongue just fall right out in shock. Songwriter J.D. Souther, who worked with the Eagles, noted plainly that it would never have been the same band without him. Randy's high tenor voice was truly unlike any other sound. After the band, Randy's solo career never reached the same heights. He released two solo albums, 1978's Randy Meisner and 1980's One More Song, with moderate success, scoring a couple of country chart hits. He toured with smaller bands and became a fixture on the country rock circuit. But anyone who saw him knew he was no diva. He always seemed slightly uncomfortable in the limelight. One colleague later said Meisner never completely got over walking away from the Eagles. It was his decision to leave, but I think he felt he had been backed into a corner where he had no other choice. In 1998, the Eagles were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Meisner rejoined Henley, Frey, and the others for the ceremony, a formal recognition of the foundational role he played. It's ironic that this kind, gentle soul often disliked the spectacle of rock stardom. He brought humanity to the Eagles' music, a piece of small-town heart that many fans never knew about. Even now, as critics look back, they say the Eagles' legacy simply wouldn't be the same without Randy. As one tribute put it, "It is clear the Eagles' legacy would be lessened without Randy Meisner's contributions to their catalog. His bass lines and touch harmonies remain in hundreds of millions of records sold, even if his name isn't on the marquee." Behind Randy's quiet smile lay deeper struggles that few fans knew. To cope with fame and loneliness, he battled alcohol dependency on and off for years. His health began to decline in the 2000s. He suffered 2 heart attacks in 2004 and eventually retired from touring altogether. His last public performance was in 2008, after which he quietly faded from view. In 2013, Randy's life took a frightening turn. He choked on food in his Los Angeles home and lost consciousness. Doctors rushed him to the hospital. He spent days in a coma and only survived due to quick thinking and medical care. His Eagles bandmates even helped pay the bills for his recovery. When he finally left the hospital, his family and friends saw that Randy was not the carefree country boy anymore. Over the next few years, disturbing news seeped out. In 2015, his longtime friend filed a petition to have Randy placed under conservatorship, citing mental health concerns. There were rumors that his wife was exploiting him, that Randy had isolated himself from those who could help him. It was later disclosed that he had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and had even made threats to hurt himself and others. He spent time under a court-ordered guardianship to oversee his medications and care. Then came the final blow. On March 6, 2016, just weeks after his 70th birthday, Lana Meisner was killed in a freak accident at the family home. A rifle she was putting away discharged, and she died instantly. Randy was in another part of the house and had nothing to do with the tragedy, but the grief nearly broke him. He entered a psychiatric ward after the shooting, expressing suicidal thoughts. It was a dark, isolated period. The rock legend who had once sung about soaring to the limit was now broken by life's cruel limits. For years after Lana's death, Randy largely withdrew. He rarely gave interviews or did public events. By all accounts, the gentle man had been deeply wounded by fate. In July 2023, Randy Meisner died from complications related to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, at age 77. His passing was quiet, no stadiums or big tributes. Yet as stories emerged, fans began to rediscover what he'd meant to music. Looking back, Randy Meisner's legacy is bittersweet. He sold over 200 million records with the Eagles, he wrote and sang on evergreen songs, and he helped create an American music legacy. And yet he never basked in that glory. Co-founder Bernie Leadon once remarked that Randy was the nicest guy he'd ever met in a band, so unassuming that he hated even being in the photos, let alone being interviewed. Today, Randy is remembered by fans as the ghost of the Eagles' sound, someone who helped build it and then quietly stepped aside. His voice still delights listeners, and every few months a new generation discovers his recordings. Fellow musicians continue to pay homage. In 2023, after news of his death spread, fellow Eagles member Joe Walsh publicly praised Randy's contributions. In interviews, bandmates Glenn Frey and Don Henley have only spoken warmly of him, acknowledging they missed his unique spirit after he left the group. Critics now agree, the country-infused heart of the Eagles came largely from Randy. The bass grooves he laid down and the heartfelt vocals he gave helped define the band's early identity. In fact, historian Martin Johnson wrote that after Randy left, their music had lost some of the humanity that Randy Meisner brought to their catalog. That comment sums it up. Even decades later, fans feel that void. In the end, Randy Meisner never asked for the spotlight, but he left an indelible mark on rock history. He showed that kindness and humility can live at the core of a powerhouse band. His life reminds us that fame can come and go, but a loving heart endures in music. Which moment in Randy Meisner's story surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories on Legend Story Vault.